TV. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Okay, show me the dots. There's the dots. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County. This is episode number 19. I'm Fred Wallace along with my co-host Denise Reid, and we'll be happy to be joined today by both Judy Rich and Will LeGrand. Before we meet Judy and Will, we want to talk about Living Well, Giving Well for those of you that are new to the program, and for those of you that have followed along, maybe you know what our concept is and what we're after on this television show, but I always throw it over to Denise to give you the rundown of what we're about.
Thanks, Fred. I think I've got this down pat, or maybe not. We'll see. I mean, Living Well, Giving Well was an idea that came about from Willer Vanderploeg of the Bright Shores and Foundations, and from Stuart Reid of the Community Foundations, and the concept of living well, giving well. Living well, how do we do that in our community, whether that's volunteering or donating or whatever, and giving well, same kind of thing. So we've had lots of experts come on about like lawyers, financial advisors, tax people, volunteers, which is what makes the world go round. And just, you know, how can we make our community a better place?
Yes, both now and in the future. And again, Denise and I always stress, one, talk to a professional, and two, visit willpower.ca to see how you can leave a gift in your will to your favorite charity, your organization, your group, be it a school, be it a service club, or be it maybe the local hospice. Our sponsor today is Huron Shores Hospice, and we want to welcome Judy and Will to our program. And just a reminder that coming up in the program, we'll have a video that showcases one of our other charity partners, and that will be the Women's Center of Grey and Bruce. But to that end, Denise, it's time now to meet our guests, and we thank them for being here today.
Why don't we start with you, Judy? No, you were looking over at Will, but it doesn't, you know. Just give us a little background. You're a lawyer.
Yes.
And that's in
Southampton.
In Southampton, okay.
And my practice primarily involves wills and estate planning and real estate transactions and estate administration. So after someone passes away, assisting the executors and estate trustees with the administration of the estate, everywhere from reading the will together to getting the final income tax returns filed, with the help of an accountant, of course. So
yes, and last week we had an accountant from what was BDO, MNP.
Had to think about that.
And we talked already about that, about having a team. It really takes a team to put that all together, because most of us don't really get how to do that or whatever. We need that assistance. So it's much appreciated that you offer that. And when we're in small town here, right? Mm-hmm. So when you come out of law school, are you going to specialize? Now we're going to Southampton, where you need to have a whole bunch of hats.
That's correct. Yes, and then being part of that team, as you said, like it's a thing where you may only do it once or twice in your lifetime, whereas I've probably helped administer like 300 estates and drafted 3,000 wills. So you have that more experience in that to help that person down the road, and connections with different groups such as accountants to make it work.
Well, and Will, you are from the Huron
Shores Hospice.
Give us just a little background on yourself and how that works, and maybe a relationship with lawyers.
Yeah, so I'm the community engagement coordinator for Huron Shores Hospice, and we are a 2-bed residential hospice in Tiverton, Ontario. And our general service area is Huron, Kinloss, Municipality of Kincardine, Saugeen Shores, and the surrounding area. And we've been operating since 2018. And so our goal is to provide compassionate end-of-life care at no cost to people in our community. So we do a lot of fundraising to be able to provide this service at no cost, because end of life is a very challenging experience for individuals and their loved ones. And so we want to make sure that their end of life experience is kind of as filled with care, beauty, and respect as we treat the beginning of life. And so we're really happy to be able to not only offer this compassionate end-of-life care at no cost, but we do provide grief support programs, end-of-life planning workshops. We do death cafes just to help destigmatize the conversations around death. And kind of related to our end-of-life planning is just the importance of connecting with professionals like lawyers and accountants to figure out these logistics for your end of life, because if you don't settle this stuff up and square it away, your wishes may not be honored at end of life, and you might be leaving your relatives and loved ones with figuring out all this stuff when they're grieving your loss. So that's kind of the really important part of connecting with professionals like Judy now.
Yeah. We have kind of, talked about that we, even though it's a hard discussion, wills, hard discussion, end of life, that we really, by doing this, you're really doing your family a favor by setting this up early, talking about it, communicating, so that you make it easier in the times that they're struggling. You've passed, but they're the ones that are struggling. And so do you connect with the lawyers? Do people come in the end of life and have, oh, here's my will, and or do you pass that on? Or how does the connection with you guys work?
So with our role as the hospice and our community education programs, we're more just kind of providing people with like the framework of things to consider and what you're kind of looking into, and then we can kind of bring them awareness of what kind of professionals they should be speaking to and empower them to go and take action and connect with them themselves. So we're not necessarily making direct referrals for people to speak with certain professionals, but educating them enough so they feel confident to go have those conversations.
Judy, you're nodding along here and agreeing with Will, but you're also connected not just as a lawyer, but you were connected to Huron Shores Hospice in the beginning. Tell me about the beginning and the things that you saw.
Well, I think that it was a group of individuals who just really saw the need in that area, that physical area. So partnering with Tiverton Park Manor to have a bed there, and like partnering with so many community members to get the beds donated, the coffee maker in the suite donated, for the construction of the suite. It was this massive community partnership to provide this area, and if you have the opportunity, if the suites are empty, to go check them out. They are beautiful. So you've got the client of Huron Shores Hospice has their own special area, and connected to that is an area where the family has a place to take naps, a place to shower, and it's like their own little hotel room to basically be there for their loved one at that time and have a chance to get away a little bit, to take a rest too if they need it, while their loved one may need some private time with a PSW or with a doctor.
You talked about community engagement. That's your title. Tell me about the communities that you serve, both of you basically, because you're living in it and you're serving in that area.
Yeah. So when it comes to community engagement, we need to fundraise more than half of our budget for the year. So that entails a lot of awareness and a lot of conversation. So it's important for people like myself, and I'm just stepping onto the shoulders of giants. There's been people who have been banging this drum and raising awareness for hospice and the need for hospice in our community years before me, volunteers who are just spreading the word, connecting with different community groups, connecting with different business professionals, and letting them know about the role of hospice in our community so that they can make the decision whether they want to help fund the hospice or donate their time and energy as a volunteer.
Yeah, we've noticed in a lot of our shows, and I mean, Fred and I are both very aware in our community how much volunteers are necessary and be a part of it. And once you have people volunteering, I think there's then the relationships that you're always building on. Well, okay, I've been involved, well, now maybe I will support, besides volunteering, maybe donation wise and that. So I think we're always we're volunteering here, right, Fred? But just one of our volunteer gigs. But to have relationships, and then that carries on and builds into even more than that. So when we're talking we're talking, I'm going to go more into the legal, the will part of it. And when we're talking about the estate trustee, okay, what is it? And how do we decide who, you're already going like that. How do we decide who that's going to be?
So your estate trustee or executor, they can be used interchangeably. That's the person who's going to do everything for you after you pass away, from arranging your funeral to ensuring that we've got copies of your will, ensuring that the taxes are filed, paying off any debts, ensuring that the beneficiaries who are named, if they're going to get your vase or your silverware or your royal Doltons or any of those things, that they receive those bequests, and after that, how the money is distributed. And then, as I said, most importantly, ensuring that debts and taxes are paid. So that person is going to be a key person to interact with your accountant. They'll be interacting with your beneficiaries. They'll be interacting with your lawyer. They will be interacting with everyone who could be touched upon from your will.
Yeah, so when we talk about, we've talked about in the hospice and how we want that relationship for our loved one to be as comfortable, and in the families at the end. You're grieving at that point. So to go and deal with wills and that, I think we're doing a favor to our families if we have the discussions on how do you want your end of life to go?
Yeah, and it's, this is the end of people's life story, and that's something that's very precious. And so the more prepared you can be for this situation, the more you can be fully present in the moment and those final days with your loved ones, and you don't have to be having this thing hanging over your head about, what's going to happen with this, or you don't want to be in a dispute with your brother or sister or something, and that way you can just enjoy those final moments.
So I think I looked at do you have, is it a booklet? Is it on your website, or is it,
yes,
am I correct in that?
Yeah, we do have an end-of-life planning guide, and that's kind of part of our end-of-life planning workshops, where you can kind of go through this long document, and again, it's just giving you the framework of kind of everything you need to think about, because I think there's just so many facets to end-of-life planning and getting your ducks in a row that you might not consider, and so to be able to have it all presented, it's going to give you a lot of light bulb moments to know, I need to make a decision about that.
Exactly.
We told you this would be a fast segment and a fast show. So we're going to take a break. Our sponsored video, or our charity video this time around, is the Women's Center of Grey Bruce, a great charity that you can help, and you'll see that in the video. We'll be back with Judy Rich, barrister and solicitor out of Southampton, Ontario, along with Will LeGrand from Huron Shores Hospice, who is our host charity on this edition. So stay with us. We'll be back with more on Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television.
Hi, I'm Heather Sheldrick. I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Center Grey Bruce. The Women's Center Grey Bruce was founded in 1982 to be a safer place for women, children, and youth who are fleeing violence in the communities of Grey and Bruce counties. The Women's Center operates 3 major programs and facilities that are all located here in Owen Sound. First one that most people are probably quite familiar with is the Violence Against Women Emergency Shelter, and that is for women, children, and youth who are fleeing abusive situations due to gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. We also operate what is known as second stage transitional housing, which is a 12-unit geared to income housing complex. And then our newest program is the Anti-Human Trafficking for Youth program, and it's an 8-bed, 24-staff supervised residential program for youth who have been or are at risk of being trafficked. Each year, more than 160 women and children receive emergency shelter services from the Women's Center Grey Bruce. We receive over 1,300 crisis calls each year on our 24/7 crisis hotline. People usually go about donating to us by either phoning and making an appointment to drop off at our administrative offices, but they can certainly go on our website and People can email donations@thewomenscenter.org. A message to the women and youth in the community, I say, you do not have to face this crisis alone. We are here for you. We are here to help and support the community of Grey and Bruce.
Welcome back to Rogers Television, Grey County. I'm Fred Wallace along with Denise Reid, and this is Living Well, Giving Well. And our guests today are Will LeGrand from Huron Shores Hospice and also Judy Rich, barrister and solicitor from Southampton. We want to thank those that were involved in the video for the Women's Center of Grey Bruce. We remind you that they offer a safer place for women, children, and for pets as well. And you can get more information by going to thewomenscenter.org. That's their website. But back to today's show, Denise.
Well, I wanted to still get into the state trustee, that bit of it, and go into then the corporate trustee as well. Sure. So the estate trustee, I was said that you need to pick somebody that, do they have to live in the same province? Is that recommended?
It's recommended that if you have an executor and a estate trustee, they should live in Canada or the Commonwealth. Otherwise, if they're not, it can raise some tax complications, because where the majority of the executors live is where the mind and management is said to be of the estate. So if you're executor, if you have 2 of 3, so if you have multiple executors and 2 of them live in New York, the tax implications are also in New York and Canada. Okay. So it's important to think that through, mainly because if you have executors who are not in Canada or the Commonwealth, they have to go through a bonding process, which is a surety or an insurance policy that protects the protects the beneficiaries and the creditors in case they don't actually do their job. So it's really this fail-safe mechanism to have that individual or individuals bonded. You can apply to dispense with a bond, but that would have to be consented upon by all the beneficiaries. So there is a process to selecting an executor that your lawyer would go through all those details with you and ask you those questions, like where do they reside? Do they get along if there's more than one of them? If there's 2, do we need 3 for, to split a vote if we need to? So there would be, all of those provisions would be spoken of and decided upon. So those would be in your will. Those wouldn't be decided upon after the fact. They'd be right there before you get going.
Well, and once again, there's the talking about, what's going to happen, the hard conversation, and whether it's you, your spouse, and that, your family. I mean, we've talked in other shows, making sure we pick the right person as our trustee, and not mom and dad who should probably pass away before, or how you're going to pick. So that's if it's family or whatever, and we know that things can really go off the rails when it comes to family and
money.
And money.
You've seen it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The voice of experience.
Exactly.
Even though it's supposed to be, the will is supposed to be what the people that have done the will want.
Exactly.
It can go a little
It can go sideways for sure, and those things involve like family dynamics. If you pick 2, do they get along? Do they trust each other? Do people trust your executor? You want to make sure that you've got the right person for the job, because it's not necessarily a 6-month job. You're probably going to go through at least 1 taxation year. You're going to go through, have to know everything about that individual. So giving that person the knowledge is going to be really important up front as well.
Yeah, we talked about that in another show too. I remember. It's a job.
Yeah.
The trustee, it's a job, and it's not sometimes easy or whatever. So, so then we go into what I was looking at, corporate trustee. I mean, now this is not the personal now, this is a corporate trustee. Can you give me what that kind of entails?
Sure. So with individual trustees, they're just individual people. Corporate trustees are either run by a trust company, and each of the 6 large banks have corporate arms that are corporate trustees. So what they do is they would be arranging with the person who's entering into the will an agreement of what they're going to do. Chief among those things I'd listed before, they're probably not going to help arrange the funerals, so that's why you have it helps to have a co-individual in that aspect, because with the corporate trustee, they'll enter into a fee arrangement with the individual and they will cover everything. So that also, it helps because there's longevity, because if I happen to be your executor and I pass away, well, who's going to be the new person, and how do we transfer that knowledge? Whereas if there is a corporate trustee, there's usually a team working together. They'll be able to go in with beneficiaries to pick things in the home that need to be distributed, and they'll be more, we'll say, decisive. Sometimes that sensitivity might not be there as it would be if it was my mom's home per se, but at the same time there'll be that longevity. You don't have to worry about family dynamics with them, because it is what it is, as in their agreement with the deceased.
Denise and I are polar opposites in that Denise is married and has been for a lot of years.
A long time.
A very long time.
Children,
whereas I'm a single guy so what happens as I age and I'm all by myself?
Well, you could select a friend. You'd want to pick somebody who was younger than yourself, a niece or nephew. It would all depend on the family dynamic that would have to be discussed with your lawyer as well, because you would not want to, one of the things people say, well, I'll be dead, I'm not going to care. You do not want to leave your family in a situation where they are infighting with the aunts and the uncles and the cousins, and that, when they're already grieving, that is not the place they want to be. A corporate trustee is somebody who could easily step into that role. And by the way, with respect to compensation, individuals are also compensated for their job as an executor. So it's not like if you have me as your niece doing it that I wouldn't be compensated. I'm still entitled to estate trustee compensation. It just goes to a different degree with your corporate trustee.
Right.
It's usually a tiered system by, a certain percent up to a certain number, and then usually the percentage goes down as the value of the estate goes up. Whereas with an individual trustee, it's ballpark, you can say 5%. So 2.5% of what goes into the estate bank account and 2.5% of what goes out of the estate bank account. If it's a long-term trust that needs to be managed, there's a minimal management fee. But in addition to that, there's some factors that, like if it's very non-complex, there's some wiggle room for those things as well.
And based on your experience, sorry Denise, based on your experience, are wills complex, or are they complex only in the mind of those who are approaching you?
I would say everyone says, I have a simple will. I have a simple will, so and in their mind it's very simple until we get into the contingencies. Oh, you want to leave 50% to this person. What if they pass away and they don't have children? What happens to that 50%? Does it go back into the residue of the estate, or are we giving it to someone else?
Yeah, that is the stuff that, you just don't think about. And that's where we talked about, do you do your own will online? Great young generation, but you don't get the expertise of the variables that could happen. And so let's say you do, you give in your will, we're encouraging people in their will to give to a community organization or whatever. Everybody wants to take care of their family first. We know that. But then there's also, I gave the 1%, 99%. And we were told that maybe 1% was low that people would do, or a specific amount. But I think that it's necessary for us to have those conversations with our kids and where we want to do that. But if you gave to a charity, the charities can't be the executors, can they?
No, they cannot.
No, they can't. Anybody that's being a recipient of any kind of, are not going to be, well, I guess they could if you're a personal,
trustees have to, or executors have to be, if they're in a corporate sense, they have to be registered in a different way. Right. And the issue with that is that there's individual directors who would oversee those charities, and the liability would be bit too much, I would think. You don't want to go down that road.
But we do want to go down, let's see, you've looked after your family, but can we, Huron Hospice, can we, where you're I don't know, where you're captivated, or where you volunteer, or your passion is for, I think there's lots for our families, but I think there's lots for our community as well.
Absolutely.
Where you're connected. Are you seeing gifts left in the wills for Huron Shores Hospice?
Yeah, so Huron Shores Hospice, we've been operating for, it'll be close to a decade soon, and so our impact in the community and the amount of people who've been kind of touched by our service is growing, and so there are people who are making the decision to leave a gift in their will, and that's just a incredibly powerful way to leave a legacy of compassion, and especially if you're someone who's been served by our hospice or a family member served by our hospice, it's just a lovely way to pay it forward.
It's kind of interesting when I see the obituaries, and this isn't even in the wills, but the obituaries, and I do notice a lot, and this would be because this is the last place they are. Mm-hmm. The hospices are a common, whether Huron Hospital or Chapman House here in our area, because that is the last memory, that's the last feeling, that's the last, I don't know, because we're trying to die with dignity, mm-hmm. right, and have that environment. So I have noticed a lot in the obituaries mm-hmm. that the hospices are benefits for that. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming it's because that is the last, mm-hmm. the last.
Yeah, and it too, there's so many people who, even if they aren't ending their life in a hospice, they could be ending it in a situation that is challenging, and they can really grow their awareness of how important hospice is and want to help fund that. And so we're just completely moved by everybody who chooses to kind of encourage memorial donations mm-hmm. for our hospice, and it's just such a thoughtful thing, kind of beyond flowers, which mm-hmm. We appreciate, but
yeah,
how much can you really
to operate?
handle?
You can't operate on a pedal stand.
Yeah.
Finally, Will, you mentioned growth, and you're in a growing area. Kincardine, Tiverton, Port Elgin, Saugeen Shores, they're all growing. Mm-hmm. Your hospice, is there discussions about growing, and do you have a plan for your future, for future growth?
So our hospice is always growing, and right now our focus really is on improving and maintaining the quality of care we provide. We're very proud to have a 100% satisfaction rate from the family members we serve, and so it is our goal to uphold that level of satisfaction. And another big priority for us is providing stronger supports for the families we serve in terms of grief and bereavement, to continue to provide training opportunities to the volunteers who serve in our hospice, because we really couldn't do what we do without them. And so the more support we can have for them dealing with the loss that they face every day, that's just strengthening themselves as volunteers and sustaining the impact we have there. And so growth is always happening, and right now our focus really is on just the care we are providing.
Will, we've got to go, and I'm sorry, this has been a great discussion. When people want to contact and make a donation, how can they do that quickly?
So go to HuronShoresHospice.ca and you can find information to donate to us there, and we really appreciate all the support.
Okay, Will, Judy, thank you very much. I hope this was fun. It was certainly enlightening and educational for us. This is Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County. Coming up, our next guest will be Cheryl Cottrell, who's a board member from Huron Shores Hospice. Huron Shores Hospice was our host charity this time around, and we also had our video from the Women's Center, Grey Bruce. Thank you, and always make a space in your will to make a charitable donation. Thanks again for watching Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
For me, it all started here.
I do my best work here.
Scores! Oh my goodness! This guy's dangerous from here, here, and here.
We're watching